My name is Ed Nardi, Chair of the Natural Resources Commission, and I am calling this public meeting to order at 7 p.m. Tonight's NRC meeting will be a hybrid in-person and Zoom meeting. We have a microphone set up on the commission table, and plans will be projected through the TV monitor. If you are presenting via Zoom, please turn on your audio and microphone when it is time for you to speak. Following the presentation by the petitioner and questions from the commission, members of the public will have the opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. Please identify yourself with name and address for the record. You can also raise your hand from your phone by dialing *9 and use *6 to unmute. All video screens will be turned off with the exception of the commissioners, Delia, and the current petitioner. Once the commission has acted on an application, the petitioner is free to leave the meeting. In the event of any technical difficulties, all matters on the agenda that have not been heard will automatically be continued to the July 6th NRC meeting. At this time, I would ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. Bill?
Bill Cremeza.
Gary?
Gary Kleiman.
Nick?
Nick Pappas.
And Sarah.
Sarah Greenwood.
Thank you all. And so first thing up this evening will be approval of the April 20th, 2022 minutes. I just had one, I don't know, comment or observation that I passed on to Karen, so nothing material.
I couldn't find it.
I had one very minor edit.
Okay,
I had a couple edits and some clarifications that I forwarded.
great.
But they're all minor, just clarifying the intent of a couple sentences.
And Bill, you good?
I'm fine, sure.
Okay,
So I move that we accept the minutes of April 20th as amended.
I second it.
thank you, Bill. The vote, Bill?
Yeah, aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Let's see, I don't, any just general comments from the commissioners on any business generally?
Just a question. Several months ago, we heard about a project on Blue Jay, or a violation, I think, on Blue Jay Drive, and you were going to follow up.
Was
I
this
still run past that, and that pipe is still there. So I just wonder if there is a plan for enforcement.
Thank you for the reminder. That actually just fell right off my radar.
And I have a feeling it's still being used because I still see erosion on the track.
Right, okay, we'll follow up. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Gary. All right.
And I have one small
Oh,
thing.
sure.
I just want to ask Delia about this. I noticed that there's going to be a meeting about the Aspen River Bridge crossing.
Yes,
Is that already been through this commission and it's all been approved? No? Okay.
they're very early in the design stages.
Oh, okay.
So that is a public forum tomorrow night.
Uh-huh.
And it's in conceptual stages. They have the location identified, but as far as the permitting, that will be.
Okay. So
There
still,
There
it's still a long
have
way.
been, there have
Least a
been a
year
couple of earlier public forums
Uh-huh.
on concept, you
Yep.
know, and there were 4 different locations considered,
Mhm.
and they did a feasibility study
Okay.
that identified.
And was that where they came in front of us just to do that exploratory borings and things of that
Yes,
nature?
exactly, that's right,
Okay,
that's
so
right.
it seems
Foundational
like-
base.
yeah,
I thought it
it
was
seems-
really just kind of going out there and taking some boards and seeing, what might suit the best location. I think.
Right, right.
Right, so that was all part of the feasibility.
Yeah.
Now they're sort of in the early stages of an actual design, but
Right.
it's
Right, yeah.
still early.
Probably a long way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine.
But that's moving forward.
Yeah,
That's-
which is great.
It is great.
Yeah.
Is there funding identified for it?
Yeah, so
Oh,
the town meeting has approved funding. I don't remember the amounts or what stage it's at,
Yeah.
but it is sort of progressing through
Yeah, great.
for funding. It's an expensive project. DOT is on board with it as a.
That's what yeah.
Yep, so that there's
Well, the
construction monies
location
with
is
that,
okay. Yeah.
Mm,
not the design, the town has to pay for the design, but
Yeah.
DOT will kick in for a substantial amount of the
Oh,
construction.
great.
just
Yeah.
gonna get in line,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
it's in the tip.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, thank you, Bill.
sure.
All right, director's report.
So first of all, I'm sad to report that Colleen has moved on from the town. So she is pursuing other opportunities, so we will be recruiting for that position. We are also still trying to recruit for the conservation crew for the second position. It's just a difficult market to hire people right now. White Pond, we have the town has issued a beach advisory. There was yesterday, the health department identified that there was a bloom at the beach. Picture here, if I can bring it up. So, and then today they went out and essentially it's throughout the entire pond.
Wow.
So that is, you can see, this is just, the light is really good on it. This is just the blue-green bloom here, and it now is like, it's throughout the water quality. The water quality testing was done today, so we're doing the bi-weekly testing with the UNH researcher. She's doing the cyano bacteria testing, also testing for zooplankton abundance and biodiversity. And so we'll hear her, we meet with her bi-weekly, we'll hear her results tomorrow.
And last year we had the guy who was doing some experimental.
And he just,
treatment.
yes, so John Higgins Environmental Associates has installed the APOD program, the APOD, an APOD.
Yeah.
It's basically a big boom,
Yeah.
200-foot long arms that just are pointed into the prevailing winds and, designed to just sort of attract. Yeah. And then he goes and he collects them, he tests them. He's also creating these little zooplankton farms because the zooplankton are predators of the cyanobacteria. So we want to increase the zooplankton types and abundance. And interestingly, the state, Great Pond, White Pond is a great pond, and so it's stocked by the state for fishing. And they have always put in trout and generally brown brookies and rainbows, sometimes tigers. And the town had asked them not to stock with trout, period, because there's a concern about trout eating the zooplankton. Yeah, and Nancy Leland, who's our researcher with UNH, says really it's the rainbow trout that's very problematic for eating the zooplankton. They're not, that's what they eat when they get that size age class. So the state didn't stock with rainbow trout this year. They just did brown and brookies. But here we are, June 15th, and but it's very early in the APOD program.
Yeah.
So we will have to wait and see, as
When did that arise last year? Any kind of just general?
Same time frame.
Same time
Third
frame?
week,
Yeah.
third week in June.
Okay, so,
So this is what the trend is appearing to be.
Yeah.
But, so blue-green blooms have been occurring in White Pond. Now we understand that they've been occurring since the 1980s. But nobody really understood how dangerous they were, nor did they really occur on any great, frequency. I think they just came and went, we sort of noticed, and then they were gone. But then in 2015, there was that was the summer that everything was closed. And just something came to a tipping point. And there's no smoking gun.
Yeah.
The septic, the stormwater runoff,
just the buildup.
fertilizer runoffs, agricultural runoffs. I mean, who knows? We don't know
Right.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
In fact, the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute did a pond study on the vineyard, and I think they did identify that it was coming from septic. But I think we don't really necessarily need to know what the pumps are. I think we just need to address it.
What's the
Right.
management solution?
Phosphorus overloading into the ponds. And
Right.
then fix that.
Yeah.
So this emerging technology is promising.
Yeah.
And so we'll just have to wait and see how the season progresses.
How is that being funded? Just curious in terms of that.
So we funded that through, there were some existing funds that we were able to put towards this. And then there's some funding for the White Pond restoration that goes towards the sampling, because that was a CPA designated use for those funds.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so the monitoring, some of those funds come from CPA and the rest is coming from town.
Thanks.
Land and Water conservation grant application for the Aspen River Bluff acquisition. Just an update on that, that we have submitted a waiver of retroactivity to the state. This will allow us to purchase the parcel prior to receiving formal approval on the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant application from National Park Service. That approval is going to be a year out. And in a sort of off the cuff, not off the cuff, but I learned that we have the ability to apply for this waiver of retroactivity, which basically just says we need the money before you guys finally approve it. So the closing is set for July 29th. I submitted the waiver request a week or so ago, and we're just waiting to hear back from the Park Service on to, whether or not. So hopefully that occurs at or soon after the closing.
Right.
So
Right.
if it's, right after the closing, Concord Open Land Foundation will acquire and holds the open space parcel, and then the town will be in a position to buy it much more quickly, which we sort of, with all the rising interest rates and getting bridge loans from SCT and
Yep.
CLCT, so like that sort of feels better that if we could buy that. sooner
Yeah,
rather than
yeah,
later.
sure.
So the town has approved the funding. for
Yeah,
that.
I would agree.
The state has declared a level 2 significant drought in the Northeast. Did you hear about this?
It's on the town website.
Is it?
Yeah, they say reduce watering to once a week.
Oh, did they say that it included the drought?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
Hmm.
Well, Darren, you
So
should-
once a week, Sarah?
Once a week or an inch a week, something like that.
So that's the drought map. We're sort of in the mid-range, level 2. It's the entire northeast part of the state. The western part of the state is not in any kind of drought condition, neither is Cape Cod. The islands are in level 1. I was pleased to see that in addition to recommending water conservation measures, that on their notice, advising of the drought advisory, that the state is encouraging planting of native drought tolerant plants.
Hey. You go.
Drought
Oh,
tolerant.
I think it's a trout to one.
The rainbow
Well, that too.
collector.
There it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it for me.
Okay. Thank you, Delia.
Mhm.
All right, I think we have 3 continuances now, 2 without discussion July 6th, and 1 to be opened and continued to July 6th.
So I move that we continue to July 6th without discussion, DEP file number 1371599. And DEP file number 1371597.
Second.
Take the vote. Bill,
Yeah, aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Nick? I saw his hand, and I'm an
Aye.
aye. So, thank you, Nick.
And then I also move that we open and continue to July 6th without discussion. Malloy 371 Old Bedford Road, DEP file 1371606.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. All right. So we'll go to our first continuance of the evening. Project at 228 Park Lane. I believe, Molly, you're here this evening.
Yes,
Great.
and I did bring a board. I don't know what the preference would be. Do you wanna pull it up?
Hopefully I can share tonight.
There we go.
So between last meeting and now, oh, for the record, Molly Bendorf with James McNary, representing Rebecca Boardwalk, the homeowner and applicant for the project. The property is at 228 Park Lane, and between last meeting and now, there was a few things, a couple notes, some details to provide on the plan, some dimensions. So I'll just run through those. There was some discussion about grading around the mitigation area and existing grades. I did add some spot grades to the extent that we had the data, which is, within 5 feet of the mitigation area. And it is pretty flat in that area. A note was also added to specify that existing grades within the mitigation area shall be maintained. And additionally, we had a note for the mitigation area to provide a seed mix. It has been further specified as a New England Conservation Wildlife seed mix. The proposed azaleas that are not native have been replaced with a native shrub, red chokeberry. Additional dimensions from the patio and the existing building to the other wetland on the other side have been provided on the plan. The joint material for the pervious paver walkway and patio have been specified in the detail. 1/8-inch keystone, I believe it was, 2-inch depth. The emergency contact in the O&M has been revised to the dispatch number. Fetal marker detail has been provided on the plan, which specifies no mowing beyond this point. And lastly, a note has been added to specify loam shall be free of invasives and machinery shall be cleaned before entering the site. So, if the commission has any questions.
Thank you, Molly. I actually listened to the tape for the last meeting, so I caught a little bit. It seemed like it was a
Yeah.
good thorough discussion last time, so I don't have anything to add.
No, it seems like
No.
you've addressed
Yeah.
everything that we had raised, so yeah, I think we're good.
All right, well, with that,
Let's see.
oh, any public comment? Thank you. See any? There's a few.
Yeah.
Don't see anyone?
No.
All right, don't see any public comment. I think we have something prepared.
They're special.
These are special, yeah?
Yeah.
Special conditions.
So I move that we close the hearing and issue an order of conditions. And this is for 228 Hart Lane, for 1371595. And this is to include standard conditions 1 through 20 and special conditions 21 through 52.
There was a second.
A second. I'll second it.
Thank you, Bill. And we'll take the vote. Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
I
Nick,
Aye.
I am an aye as well. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you, guys.
All right, don't go very far. Here we are again. So, 5A Sunnyside Lane, NOI file number 137-1601.
For the record, Molly Bendorf with Stacy McNary, representing AWMW. Mark White is also here tonight. There were similarly just a few remaining things from the last meeting to now. So it was requested that we do a once annual mow in the basin. I did follow up with Justin with the engineering department to confirm that he was okay with that. He requested that we provide or compensate for the volume that could possibly be taken from the vegetation. It's a minimal amount,
Yeah.
but that was assumed and provided. And I did also provide the MRC staff with a copy of the revised stormwater report. So he's reviewing that. We submitted that to planning last week, I believe. But we did confirm with Justin, so he's okay with that. And that has also been revised to note the once annual mow on the plan. And then there were, so I believe.
And it does
Mark-
say in the fall, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I believe Mark went out with Delia. There were some additional trees that were thought to be dead that we hadn't noted as dead on the plan. And the total tree removal count ends up being 17 trees, 5 of which are dead. So there will be 12 replacement trees, and the charts have been updated to reflect the new numbers for that.
And the only question that is, I noted that it says there'll be some snags left as well. Is that 1 snag, 2 snags?
I
Any-
believe 2 were potential snags.
I mean, if I need to make a decision, will be 1, but I'd like to just leave it wide open and just I'll leave as many as I can.
So a minimum of 1.
Correct.
Okay.
And just for the record, the 12 trees that are being taken down, the live ones do show signs of crown failure or dying branches, so they're not great trees, right?
All right.
Repeating that?
Just saying the trees that are being taken down, the live ones, they have signs of crown damage and all that. So they're not good, healthy trees.
All right. Any other comments from the commission? All right, any comment from the public regarding this application? Sheila, do you see anyone?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. All right, so I think we have a special prepared, and this would be, I guess, voted on contingent upon, with the contingency that it's still subject to CPW review. So we're good with that? Okay.
So I'm just
Mark?
realizing, I'm sorry, before you make a motion on this, I need to add, we need to add a special condition related to the annual mowing.
Ah,
So there will be, instead of the,
54, it's 55.
55 and one annual mow in the fall?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're okay with that additional?
yes.
Mark, you had a question?
Yeah, two questions. Is that a draft order of conditions?
It is the order of conditions.
So for, will be subject to my review? I get to.
Oh,
see
sure. If we want to hold out, I mean,
I can send it to you if you want to hold off until the July.
that. Oh,
6th
do we
meeting.
want to close where we haven't closed with planning?
Well, they have a
It would be,
condition.
it would be subject.
we're just closing it,
You can leave it open.
yeah, contingent upon, or if you can leave it open to next
We're not
meeting.
we're closing, I'm recommending
Oh.
that you close
Yeah,
contingent upon CPW approval. So if CPW has changes that need to be made,
We'll come back.
then it doesn't close, it comes back. But if you would prefer that I send you these,
I
and
would
then you,
prefer they be sent as opposed to, and I would like to review those before tonight.
we can send them to you and
Is
then,
there anything, can I take a quick look at them? I mean, pretty quickly.
Fast reader.
you want to jump to something else?
I don't know, Mark, what do you think you might need? Couple more
I'm
minutes?
almost there.
Okay,
On
Yeah.
number 45.
pretty good.
I've seen a couple of these. Yeah, the only, so you're saying that if we do put these sprinkler heads within the 100, we would need to come back. Or-
That would be just a 50, wouldn't it?
Yeah, outside of the
Outside the
50 to
50.
100 would just be a minor modification.
But that says anything inside the 100.
That would need review.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sorry, but my question was if we're doing that, we need to come back for.
Could
Well,
we
we're
do
also
staff,
filing for the
staff
lots.
review, just in the
It
field?
would be a minor modification.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just minor
So
mod.
But as far as the infiltration basin, you would not be proposing those, presumably.
It would be on the house block, not on the infiltration basin.
Why wouldn't you put it in the basin?
Would you want
You're not
to,
gonna be 18. Yeah, I'm okay.
would you want to foster growth in the base? I don't.
Okay. We're gonna
This
be, as
can
Molly said,
stay
we're coming back.
open.
we're
This
coming-
can stay open until
Let's
the July
close it,
6th
because we're
meeting.
gonna be coming back to the lots anyway, which is really gonna encompass the same area.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so we're gonna close it contingent upon CPW review. Okay,
Yeah, so I move that we, subject to CPW review, we close and issue an order of conditions under DEP file number 137-1601 for 5A Sunnyside Lane, with findings A and standard conditions 1 through 20 and special conditions 21 through 55.
second. Thank you, Sarah. And the vote, Phil?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for your time.
Good luck with the green facing.
Yeah.
What's
It would be
good?
interest.
Yeah.
Good luck calculating the volume of grass.
All right, moving on to the next application. Notice intent, 99 Dalton Road, DEP file number 137-1594. And is David with us this evening?
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, I can give an introductory presentation. So for the record, my name is David Cowell. I'm a senior wetland scientist at Hancock Associates on behalf of the applicant. Dan McIntyre, the property owner applicant, is with us in attendance this evening, as is the architect, Risa Gray, is with us in attendance as well. I just want to recognize them that they may have opportunity to speak during the hearing, not as members of the general public. Our civil engineer, Jacob Lemieux, cannot be with us tonight. He has a conflicting hearing in Wayland tonight. So we had the first hearing on this matter where we had presented some single family home additions to the residents at 99 Dalton. There was a proposed garage and covered porch at the front of the house that I don't think was very contentious. That's outside of the 50-foot no build zone. But there are a few elements. There's a stormwater chamber that is within the 50-foot no build. And there's a deck on the back of the house that it's in-kind replacement of a deck being converted to a screened porch. So it doesn't represent any additional impact to the 50-foot no build zone. It's in the square footprint of what is already there. And then on the side of the house, there's a proposed screened porch that it's over turf lawn. So it won't require any grading. It won't require any removal of native vegetation, but it does present new impervious surface area over an area in the 50-foot no build that currently doesn't have any impervious surface area. So based on the first meeting that we had on this, we had some directive to propose mitigation for these offerings. We were told that we would apply a 1-to-1 ratio of wetland restoration for each square foot of new surface areas in the buffer zone. And then for new surface areas in the no build zone, we would offer 10-to-1 ratio proposed mitigation. There's an existing lawn out there that is existing non-conforming. When we did the wetland delineation, we realized that the extent of hydric soils was actually up pretty high in the lawn. And that's where we would propose mitigation is actually reclaiming some of that lawn that's in the wetland to meet that mitigation ratio. So it's currently proposed in the plan that we submitted. We had offered 2,700 square feet of reclaiming lawn as mitigation. We provided a native planting plan for woody plants and shrubs that we would put in there, native seed mixes and some herbaceous species. And then we would monument that with pheno markers that say no disturb beyond this point. And it could be conditioned in perpetuity that that area remains untouched and left fallow to go natural again. I did receive some preemptive just comments from Delia in her review yesterday and early today. So I think there's a couple of items to address here, just cleanup items. But I did want to turn it back to the commission for deliberation in hopes that we may be able to find some amenable ground here. And any questions or comments that you guys have tonight, I could certainly incorporate into response to Delia's comments from earlier today. With that, I would turn it over to the commission to see what questions you have for us.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
You know, not to beat a dead horse, but I was just trying to look at the subsurface drainage. And again, just a question I asked, I see in our notes that it couldn't be moved further away from the 50 or out of the 50 because of grading considerations. But as I was looking at the grading just a little bit, as you move out of the 50, it seems like that grade is relatively flat up there between 138 and 137.
Yeah,
So I was just really just curious why that couldn't be at least pushed further out of the 50.
right. Now, Jacob Lemieux, who is our design engineer on the stormwater design, who couldn't be here tonight, I did
Yeah.
ask him what is limiting constraints that puts the system where it is. And we did evaluate whether or not we could move it to further vacate the 50-foot no build. He said that part of it has to do with there's an abutting easement between our property and the abutting property to the west. He was also concerned about trees in that area, that it would require additional trees. And it also has to do with where perk testing was done, where he could get a system to infiltrate to meet that drainage, subsurface drainage.
So what is the easement?
What is that?
What is the easement?
The easement is, there's a small narrow easement that goes between these properties that provides access from this cul-de-sac to properties to the southwest, I would guess, just based on the orientation.
So a pedestrian easement?
There's a
Along the
trail,
property
there's a-
line?
There's a walkway. Is that the, what you're talking about?
Yeah, there's a walkway.
There's a walkway that goes through over to the school, or have been the school area.
Yep, and that's the easement. That's what it's on.
Interesting.
Forgive me.
Why would that?
Why would that
preclude-
matter?
Yeah, I mean, if it's just a walkway, and it seems like it's right against the property line.
It is.
It's a 4 or 5 foot lane, it shouldn't affect,
And it looks like that tree is already being impacted, the one that's close to that proposed catch basin off the edge of the driveway.
yeah.
This tree already looks like it's gonna be impacted by the grading.
And you're dropping the catch basin in there, aren't you? I mean, it seems like there's
And driveway. and-
yeah, so it seems like there's a fair amount of work going on. And again, David, it's really, just looking at it initially, I'm sure the subsurface doesn't change too much when you do a perk test, right? If there's,
And CPW hasn't witnessed those.
oh, that's
either.
right. Yeah, so that's gonna be
Right.
subject to that when they do the
Right,
work, right?
right,
It's like, they're gonna do it real time. So again, it's just a final query, if you don't mind, in terms of just looking at those elevations and just trying to understand. Again, it seems relatively flat, so just
Right.
trying to understand why that might not be able to get pushed out of the 50.
So these are the comments and feedback we're looking for.
Yeah.
I know that my civil engineer, and I
Yeah.
trust his professionalism, said that there is certain reasons why he can't move it, otherwise he would. What I'll do is I'll coordinate with him to prepare written response of why it is that.
Yeah, that'd be appreciated, just to understand, I guess, a little bit more
Sure.
technically why it might not be able to relocate other than perhaps some
Right.
peripheral matters of the tree or maybe a walkway and so on.
But I'd be remiss to mention that, again, with a subsurface system like this, it's situated in an area over what exists as turf lawn, and it's going to be turf lawn when it's done. It'll go in the ground, it'll be backfilled to existing grade, and it'll be seeded and loamed. It's not necessarily considered an impervious surface area, and it's considered a temporary impact more than a permanent impact.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Let's see, I think there were just a few other notes here. Delia, I didn't know if you had received the chart on the impacts by zone.
Yes, so that
Okay.
is actually, it's on the.
It's
plan.
tabulated on the plan, yep.
Okay, and you're good with that? It's okay, from a commentary, yep. Obviously, as you noted, the CPW is gonna look at the soils when they go and do the work. So again, a little bit
Right,
of
and
risk
so-
there.
Right, I mean, and just from, sort of the standpoint of what that means for you as the applicant, that if there are any changes, what CPW witnesses in terms of this seasonal high groundwater elevation, if that's different, there may be some redesign necessary to make sure that the bottom of the basin is 2 feet above the seasonal high groundwater elevation.
Sure, understood.
That's what they need to confirm.
Yep.
Make sure that the system works.
Right. I mean, I understand the inherent risk of issuing an order of conditions if CPW looks at this and there's some redesign, but I can't imagine it would be any substantive redesign, and if it came to that, we could always just come back to the Conservation Commission with whatever modifications we made. Either in request for, if in your opinion, it is a minor project change that doesn't, can be administrative, or if you guys feel that it requires amendment to an order of conditions, we would have to reopen the public hearing under policy 5 point, I forget. That's,
Yeah, sure, that's fine, David. You know, we're of course open to that. It's just a matter of what CPW determines has to be done.
Right.
If anything.
good. Yeah,
So-
understood.
Okay. And I think also I guess the last, well, it's the tree protection
Mhm.
detail is, David, are you familiar with the typical tree protection detail we usually call for?
No, we, Delia had provided a comment to us, and I sent that to our engineer. He said that he can update our site plans according to Concord's standard for.
Okay. That'd be great.
Great.
Thank you.
And then there was some additional comments, Dave, if you want to run through those, just basically increasing the plantings
Yep.
to
Yeah,
cover the 2,700 square feet.
sure. That's, I saw your comment. So one was, I think I calculated 5 foot off centers on shrubs, and I think your comment was 5. So I can calculate 5 foot off centers, and it'll bump the woody plants and shrubs up a bit. On the ferns, I think you would ask for 1 foot off centers. My concern is I think that would be a little bit crowded. I can certainly increase the number of plugs that we put in there. My only concern there is that we are applying a seed mix that has 20-25 different species of herbaceous plants that we plan to get in there. Normally, when I put some ferns.
So Dave, probably for that, I think we could do that offline. If you want to call me tomorrow, we can work through what that mitigation looks like, unless the.
No, that makes
No.
sense. That's
Yeah.
good.
Oh, sure,
Yeah,
but
I think that makes
the
sense.
commission ultimately has the vote, and I want to, I mean, we're going to articulate responses to these.
No, I
But
appreciate that.
my point on the ferns is that a lot of ferns are bunch ferns that your cinnamon ferns, your bracken ferns grow out of a bunch. But hay-scented fern, and in this case, what did I propose? New York fern is a creeping rhizomatous fern. So once you plant those in the ground, I anticipate that those are going to progressively, by a rhizomatous growth, spread out to create more ground cover.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And Delia, any final comments on yours?
So the 50-foot no-build waiver request needs to be submitted.
I can do that as well. Yep. So that's another formality of process that I will propose an articulate waiver request articulating efforts to avoid, minimize, and mitigate, and to meet that requirement. We did one thing to mention too is that on the subsurface system, like I said, is a temporary impact. The construction of a screen porch over a wooden deck doesn't represent any additional footprint, but there is some additional footprint associated with the screen porch on the right or eastern side of the house. Again, based on the last hearing, we based on the initial wetland delineation that was outside of the 50-foot. Whether or not that's error on our part, when I revisited the site with Colleen, we did witness hydric soils much higher than originally delineated, which put it in the 50-foot no build zone. We did, the architect did look at shifting it to the north, but there are some architectural constraints that prohibits her from doing it. And what they did do, in recognizing that this doesn't come cheap, that we're looking at 10 feet of restoration per foot, it was reduced from, it was 200 and change, and it's reduced now to 170 square feet. So we did make an effort to reduce the size of that footprint, recognizing again the encroachment into the 50-foot no build.
Yeah, so it looks like it was modified, stairs are different
Yes.
location-wise and.
Right.
Okay,
Hasn't shifted, but it's smaller.
a little smaller.
Stairs are different.
That's it. Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you for pointing that out. Any further comments from the commission?
No.
Nick, you good?
Fine.
Any comments from the public regarding this application? Okay. So David,
Yep.
you've heard some commentary from us this evening. You know, the next meeting is on July 6th.
Yep.
I know you want to talk offline with Delia a little bit about the plantings and some details.
Oh, yeah, I'd be happy to talk with you. I recognize her expertise in these matters. Yep.
And to hit the 6th, it wouldn't be this Friday, it could be the following Friday. So do you think you can get, to have those conversations, get necessary revisions in by a week from Friday?
Absolutely. Yep. That's well within. I was going to ask you that question. I know that you recently changed from 2 weeks to
You bet.
3 weeks. So, yep, we're pedal to the metal on this. So
Yeah, we're going from the 15th
Well,
to the 6th.
Right, we just happen to have 5 Wednesdays in whatever month we're in right now.
June,
June.
right, that's right.
So we haven't changed our meeting schedule. We just have a bye week of an extra, we have a 3rd week in there because of the,
The first and third Wednesday.
right,
First and third Wednesday.
Oh, I see. Okay, understood.
is
Yep.
the 3rd Wednesday.
The net effect is.
I know
pretty-
that scheduling and it's,
Yeah.
the client is wondering how long it'll take. That's wonderful. Yeah, I'd be happy to touch base with Delia offline and prepare a response to comments and plan revisions. And we could get that in undoubtedly before next Friday.
That's great. Then we'll plan on seeing you back on the 6th.
Okay, outstanding. I appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
All right. Be well, everyone.
You too. All right, next application this evening is Minuteman National Historical Park, DEP file number 137-1598. Let's see, so Brian or
Margie.
Margie?
Good evening.
Good evening. So if you want to maybe touch on some of the points that I think we last left this at, you just want to highlight some of the things we discussed last time.
Yes. The first thing that we talked about was indicating the trees locations that were adjacent to the boardwalks and that we incorporate tree protection specifications. So the trees have been added to the plans. We identified one tree that should be felled. It's a red maple and it's a 27-inch diameter tree that's leaning towards the boardwalk. So that would be felled, left in place, and of course, a tree replanted. We did have a question about the replanting of the tree. Does it need to be within a certain distance of the existing tree?
It should be within the same zone. So if it's in, the 25-foot no disturb zone, it should be replaced within that same zone.
Okay. So then next item was how the boardwalk would be removed. And so there's some additional language, but we got into a discussion with the contracting office about methods and means. And so I think it may be, the language may be a bit more general than the commission requested. And so we were hoping that you could put, if the language is too vague in the contract specs, if that could be in the order of conditions, because that would be a very suitable way for us to address it. We have in the contract that they would adhere to any orders of conditions.
Okay.
So we do have to be careful about being too specific about how work is carried out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, didn't we have one issue with that though, or the question was some of the old supports were plastic. And I think last time we had a discussion about how you might remove those, and I think maybe someone else mentioned that they're already, a lot of them are already coming up and should be relatively easy to rock them and remove them. But there was a question about if you had to cut them,
Yeah.
and those plastic shards, sawdust, whatever you want to call them, getting into the wetlands, that was a concern of the commission on how, if that had to happen, how would that be handled?
Yeah, so that was added. And so that is L2 notes, number 10. Any treatment of plastic lumber which may result in shavings, cuttings, or debris shall be accomplished in a manner which controls waste and prevents contamination of site.
It's just, it's very vague. It doesn't, so, I mean, for installation, you could say, and we could condition that you would just do any cutting, in the staging area, which is pretty much the parking lots. But it's, I think we need to think of something a little more specific.
Yeah.
Because you can't cut them and just tell the contractor just to minimize the contamination. You're just going to cut them. And
Would it make sense if that condition ever came up that they would contact you or
yeah,
staff?
maybe
And
we could include a condition that says if the
if it's,
posts cannot be removed and need to be cut, then further discussion is going to be
Yeah.
required.
Yeah.
Question,
Yeah.
Ed. Why not just leave them in place if they can't be removed easily?
Things extend up above the ground.
Well, yeah, but that's true, but that might be the least destructive alternative, the least
Yeah.
harmful alternative.
yeah, although I'd like to think that
Aesthetically pleasing.
these are fairly shallow posts that
Yeah,
I think we all are thinking that once they get in there with their means and methods and kind of rock them, they should be able to pull them out. But to your point, Nick, nothing's guaranteed in terms of once you get out there. So
But I guess that would come up at the discussion, wouldn't it?
yes, yeah. I mean, I think they're going to readily know once they get on each site and kind of poke around how
and
easy
maybe
it's
one
going
or
to
two
be.
get left in place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And the
Yeah.
rest get pulled out.
yeah.
it might be that, yeah.
That's a
I
fair
think-
suggestion. Any thought on your end, Marty?
But I think it's fine to leave them in place. And I think they probably will be able to get them out, especially the ones that are really out of the ground. So that would be, I mean, one of the other discussions we had was what might drive up the cost. And so if we have a lot of detailed specifications on how things are done, does the contractor greatly increase the cost? So I like the idea of just saying, if you can't get it out, just leave it in place.
I don't know that we're actually, I think what we're saying is, I mean, the goal is to remove them.
Yeah,
We don't want the plastic left in the ground. So the goal is to remove them, but if there is, a few that cannot be easily removed, then, staff would come out and take a look at that with you and the contractor and agree that maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, might be left, but we don't want to see all of the
Right.
plastic.
Yeah, it would be too easy. It would be too easy for a contractor on site to say, well, I can't get any of them out. That's
Right.
it.
yeah.
Right.
So do we want to include that in our condition?
Mhm.
Would that make more sense for you, Marty, in regard to the plastic structure?
So
element?
I guess, so if we could look at number 10 again. So any treatment of plastic lumber which may result in shavings, cuttings, or debris shall be accomplished in a manner which controls waste and prevents contamination of the site. Is there any way we could edit that to make it clearer that we don't want any shavings?
I would just say no cutting. I would say no cutting, no milling of plastic
Yeah.
on site, period.
Or in the 100-foot buffer zone.
Right.
So does that stay in?
Well, I think you just have to edit it to, if that's the commission's perspective, then
Yeah.
Well,
just
you could
edit that
say
note.
No cutting without any further discussion, maybe.
Yeah,
Well,
there's 2 approaches. right?
There are no criteria in that statement. So, as to whose judgment as to what constitutes reasonable cleanup is.
Well, no, that's what I agree, Nick. You'd have to say notwithstanding the above, if there are any, prior to cutting any elements of plastic, NRC staff will be contacted for further discussion prior to, something to that effect.
Right.
I think the basic point is no cutting with plastics, no cutting, milling, or whatever of plastics in the 100-foot zone without explicit approval from NRC.
Mhm. Yep.
That works.
Okay,
Thank you, Nick.
okay, just to reiterate, the statement will be no cutting or milling of plastics within the 100-foot zone
Buffer
uh,
zone.
without consultation with NRC
Without NRC approval.
approval. Okay,
You could explain any remaining pieces of plastic lumber as historic artifacts in the National Historic Park.
well,
Yeah.
we have a lot
Back
of,
to the future.
stuff in the park.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next item is how the boardwalk will be the process of moving through the boardwalk to actually remove it. And so from Lincoln, we received some language, and I just want to run it by Concord. After the existing boardwalks are removed, lightweight construction matting would be employed for access. This matting would consist of plywood or synthetic work mats. The replacement structures would use a pinned foundation, precast concrete head, and 4 pins to minimize ground disturbance. A hydraulic air hammer would be used to install the footings. Only handheld equipment would enter the resource area. Additional plywood would be laid perpendicular to the boardwalk footprint during the installation of the footings. The matting would be removed immediately upon completion of the work within the area. Staging areas for each boardwalk project are proposed outside of the wetland resource area and buffer zones in upland or parking areas. So, that is not currently in the specs because it goes a bit too far into methods and means. So I guess I just want to get feedback from Concord if you felt that our second submittal is lacking detail in the actual processes that are happening in the wetland.
Yeah, I mean, we would include special conditions, Margie, on how the construction is sequenced, and that would be similar to what that language says, basically using swamp mats. They're in place, for only as long as they're needed. No machinery, handheld equipment. Although I think the swamp mats are installed by skid steers. But beyond that, an air hammer for the installation of the footings.
I'm just curious, when you say the swamp mats are introduced by skid steers, but then we're also talking about plywood.
Yeah.
As an alternative.
Yeah.
So they're substantially different, right? A piece
They
of
are.
plywood versus a
Right.
swamp mat.
Right.
Right?
It's a lot lighter.
Yeah, a whole lot lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
So lightweight, I think that's right, say lightweight.
Yeah, lightweight,
Mat
yeah.
or plywood.
Because I don't know why you need a skid steer if it's something
Yeah, that,
kind of comparable to plywood, or
Right.
even if it's 2 or 3 times, it's still pretty light.
right.
So,
Right.
And that seems very consistent with our discussion last time in terms of how Margie and your team explained the approach last time generally, I think.
Mhm.
Subject to means and methods ultimately, but it seems fairly consistent to the general discussion.
Yeah.
So do you want to put that in the order of conditions?
Yep.
So it's not within the contract? Okay, that's very helpful for us.
Would you like to send it, Delia, that language? I don't think you've seen that, have you? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that was, yeah, I think, so Stacy sent it back to us. I guess it was recorded during the process, so I will forward that to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
Fair
going back to Lincoln next week, so we're trying to be consistent with both towns.
Makes sense.
So, the next topic, stockpiling, laydowns, generator location, refueling location, and access. So, we had, I guess what we had heard was that we needed to indicate that equipment was outside of the 25-foot buffer, but what we actually needed to write was outside of the 100-foot buffer, excuse me. And so,
Yeah, so for fueling and, stock storage of equipment, that shouldn't be within the 100-foot buffer.
yeah, okay, so we kind of missed that. So we're revising that everywhere where it says 25 feet or 50 feet, it's becoming 100 feet.
Yeah.
So, okay. And I think there was some request by the town of Lincoln to show exactly where the generator was going to go. And we felt that that's too prescriptive.
Outside 100.
Outside the 100.
Yeah.
So if it's outside of the 100, how do they get the power to the work? I mean, these are pretty long boardwalks.
Mentioned.
I think that the power is not going to make it for Elm Brook and Olive Stowe. That is that
Oh.
these are 500-foot boardwalks. So
So besides generators, maybe they can put the generator inside. the
Yeah.
100.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
'Cause
If they're inside the 100, maybe they can build even a simple containment. It's not hard, right? I mean, it's
Yeah, I mean, obviously the concern is,
fuel and oil.
right, fuel and oil spilling. So maybe is there some sort of containment structure that you have for, or that the contractors, I don't know, that they would have for a generator?
Hard plastic tub,
Yep.
even knock something up with plywood and put a little bitchethane in there.
Right,
I mean,
right,
it's
right.
pretty field built.
And I think we
It's
can
pretty
probably
minor.
condition, we could probably condition that.
Yeah,
There is some,
real
yeah. we could condition
real
that.
straightforward. Yeah, should not be a significant issue.
that would be great. So I think it's helpful if they can have it within the wetland area for these particularly long boardwalks. So if you can condition that to encourage them to put the generator outside of the 100-foot buffer if feasible. But if it is within the area, to add some sort of containment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems reasonable.
Okay, the next is timing. And I think we had wanted to
Just
check back.
one thing on that, Margie.
Mhm.
It might specify also fuel storage outside the buffer zone.
Well, that would be, yeah. Oh, I see, fuel storage and refueling.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. In terms of timing, we had taken notes last time that preferred work time would be June 1st to October 15th. We would like to allow the contractor as long a work season as possible, given the extent of the project. And so we wanted to check back and see if we could allow the contractor to work between October 15th and December 15th if the water table is low.
So the way that we would handle that is just to include a condition that says work is permitted from, during the low flow season through October 15th, or with prior written approval of me. And then we'll just, look at what the weather conditions are, and if we have, low, if we're continue to be in a drought,
Yeah,
and, yeah, it would be okay. It just needs to be reviewed before we can authorize, because we don't know what the weather's gonna be like outside of the low flow season.
Yeah, as much as you can clarify what would allow them to work between October 15th and December 15th.
It's gonna be
that will keep the
prior
prices down.
written approval of the Natural Resources Director, and it's going to be based on what the water table
Water
is
table.
looking
Yeah.
at, like at that standpoint, yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh, this was, so wetland protection mats. This was actually where I had dropped in the language that I read previously. So, so this is where contracting thought it was going into methods and means, but we've already discussed this, and that will be a order of conditions, and I'll send you that language. Okay, cleaning protocols for invasive management. I'm pretty sure that these were added to the specifications.
The invasive species management.
So that would be,
this is the
Cleaning.
washing of the
Yeah.
equipment from
Yeah.
site to
Yeah.
site.
Right.
Yeah.
It's discussed it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Full round of-
sorry, this one, all right, well, I'm not prepared on that one. I was hoping to give you what was added.
You have included that.
Oh, we have, of course.
No,
So you
Dave,
Yeah.
Dave by Delia. Okay, so it's in there?
Yep.
Okay, excellent.
completely, everything you need is in that one?
For the invasives,
for the washing of the
Yes,
before and after.
yes.
Yeah,
we were okay with that.
okay.
Okay, and then that's Lincoln. I think you noticed that the erosion control was,
So I'm sorry, Margie, I'm just gonna back up one quick second on that. We're gonna recommend a special condition that everything is pressure washed. Equipment, swamp mats, and everything else, that will be conditions. So we could maybe get a little bit deeper into that detail than you have the ability on the contract. Okay.
all right,
So it's equipment, swamp mats shall be pressure washed, visually inspected, and free of exotics prior to startup of operations and moving of equipment. And cleaning and inspections shall occur in staging areas before and after use to minimize the spread of invasives between wetlands.
Good.
Thanks, so.
so the next item is the erosion control. It was erroneously drawn in the previous, and I'm pretty sure that's corrected. Everyone okay with that? Turbidity curtains. This was a town of Lincoln discussion. In our consistency, we just wanted to make sure that we covered this, and I think this is something that we'll not add. It will be part of the order of conditions. Yeah, so I'm not sure. There was no specific direction on that.
I don't think we feel that's a requirement.
Okay. And that's all I have. Oh, yeah, that's all I have for Concord.
Hey, Mari, you started out, I think, at the very beginning, talking about a tree protection detail. Were those included in the plan? So I think those, do you have something in mind there?
Yeah, busted. I couldn't find it. I was like,
Oh,
where is it? So I've been texting people like, where is it? Yes, it's
Okay.
missing. Would we all agree that it's missing? It's referenced, it has a
I think
code
it says not
number.
provided. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not there. Okay,
All right, you're on the hunt.
we'll be back with our tree protection detail.
I can send you
Tree
something
hugger.
on that, Margie, I can send you something.
Well, it's really implied that it's here. It says CL2B-2.
It's not
It
there.
ain't
It's
there.
not.
Okay.
So
So the
I'm
issue
sure
that
we have one. I just don't, I think it got dropped. Obviously, there's many players
Right.
and
So I think the problem, though, that we were talking about at the last meeting is that a lot of these trees are really close to the
Mm.
boardwalk, and that
Yeah.
our standard wood wire welded
They're gonna-
fence at the drip line isn't going to work here. So we were really looking to you to come up with something that is going to be more appropriate for this site, recognizing that we don't think that just putting slats around the trees is adequate.
okay.
So it might be a creative, maybe it's, I don't know, we can talk about it, Margie. Give me a call.
But there are conditions in here
Yep, Yep.
saying things like,
Will be
trees marked
protected.
along trail.
Yeah, but you need the
But you
detail.
don't
very
know what
close to
that
trail
means.
and in the path of construction. trees
Yeah.
that
We
provide trunk
want to give
protection.
right, you want to give the contractor a
details.
little more guidance.
Yeah,
Okay.
Isn't the problem is that if we aren't specific, then the bidders
Yeah,
aren't going to know what it's going to cost to do
The
the project.
contractor could just wrap them in snow fences.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
yeah. It's better to be specific on those
Yeah.
issues. So he can price them accordingly as well,
Yeah, right.
right? With all fairness, so.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where we are.
I think Margie and Delia are gonna
Yeah.
talk offline.
Okay,
Yeah,
Gotta work on a
And-
couple of details for those odd conditions.
I don't know where it is. It's not here.
Okay,
Oh,
well, we'll see
I did
again.
not do my homework.
That's all right.
Hey,
You have until next Friday to resubmit.
okay. Are there any other comments for the commission?
The tree that you're removing, Margie, have you seen it? Do you know where this tree is?
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's a pretty large tree, isn't it, you're saying?
Yeah, it's actually, it's really large on
That's
the
what I thought.
plan,
Yeah.
84 inches, but that's the circumference. So it's 27-inch diameter. It's a red maple. It's actually pretty close to a beautiful white oak. So we want to make sure we protect that.
Yeah.
But it's got a kind of a precarious lean, and I'd hate to spend, $500,000 on a boardwalk and then have it decide to fall, which it probably
Yeah.
would do. So, so we're just thinking, fell it, leave it in the wetland, it's coarse woody debris, and we would just plant another tree.
Okay,
And that's
Thank
the
you.
only tree that would come out as part of this project.
Okay. So Margie, are you comfortable shooting for July 6th by getting the plans in a week from Friday?
I actually can't answer. So.
You can let Delia know as well.
Well, we
you
need to
know.
continue now. to
Oh,
date certain.
oh, yeah, okay.
Submittal by what date?
A week
Submittal
from
by
Friday.
Friday, next Friday.
24th, I think.
24th.
June 24th. Okay, we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
all right.
And if not, then we'll continue on to.
All right, so we'll hold you for the 6th.
Yeah, and we're trying to be consistent between the towns, and we're meeting with Lincoln next Wednesday. I think, does that sound right? That
Yeah.
they meet on a Wednesday? Yeah, so I think,
I need every third Wednesday.
so we'll see.
One meeting.
Okay. You good? You good, Marty?
I'm good.
All right.
Great.
Look forward to seeing you on the 6th. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Let's see, that's 5, number 6. All right. So 61 Black Duck Road, DEP file number 137-1578. And do we have Rich here this evening?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
And we also have Eric. Eric is here, the applicant, Eric and Sally.
Hey, Eric. Hi, Sal.
Hello.
All right. So I think there were just a number of kind of issues to kind of clean up and reconcile a little bit. Did you get those comments, Rich, from staff?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much. And
Okay. Do you want to just kind of run down those and tell us where you're at with those?
certainly. So on the screen, we took the mitigation plan and I created a second sheet of the drawing, and it's on the screen right now. Perhaps you can zoom out a little bit. So the mitigation calculations on the top right of this plan is the table that's been prepared by the applicant, and it has just, it gives you the numbers of what's existing, proposed, and removed and added, and we believe that's accurate. And the number is a little bit higher on the plot plan, but they didn't deduct the existing stairs in the front and other features, so that's why there's a difference between those two things. So as we move forward, we feel that adding this plan, showing the calculations there, the change in the 25 to 50 on the right is 371, and then the 1-to-1 from 50 to 100 is 177 on the right side of the column, for a total of 548. And then when you move down to the bottom of this sheet that we prepared, we've updated the numbers from looking at it with the client. And so I basically cut and pasted some of the mitigation aspects from the consultant. So the mitigation table there for mitigation measures is that on the bottom left, the 10-1 replication of the 50-foot buffer zone is the 371 times 10, which gives you the 3,710. The 1-to-1 is 177. So the total mitigation per the policy is 3,887. And the areas that we provided on this page and deducted them from the narrative is 4,462. And that is.
I'm sorry, but we're just seeing this, Rich, for the first time. So
Certainly.
it's time for us to digest it, and maybe what would be more productive is just to go through the comments. You can say that, we've now got this plan, just came in now. We'll review it, but rather than sort of look for comments on this piece of it, I think it's probably more productive just to go through the comments and see if there's any.
See where we're at.
Yeah.
Well, right. So this table represents what we believe is accurate.
Yep.
That you're asking us to clarify on the reconcile the numbers on the comments number 1 about the mitigation.
Yep.
Question
Sure.
about that, Vivian. Since there's 2 different zones we're talking about, do we need to specify how many plants in each of those 2 zones?
Yep.
Okay.
So we want the mitigation method measures by zone.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
So you'll follow up on that.
Yep.
All the mitigations gonna be within the 25.
Within the. Okay.
So as you
Okay.
pan up so the area that we're adding within the 25 to 50 is the pinkish color, the 371, which is the front addition minus the existing steps that are already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The right sunroom minus the chimney that's already there and the existing deck, which is already a structure. And that's where we get those 3 pieces add up to the 371, which we're taking at a 10-to-1 for the policy to give us the 3,710. The additional hatching in the front of the building to the left of the steps towards the driveway, that's the additional 1-to-1 replication that we're adding, along with the additional deck area in the back of the building. So.
Yep, understand.
So as you scroll up the page further, the pheno markers that the client is amenable to is, you can see the greens. So at the top of the plan, the cul-de-sac. So you see to the right, there's an F1 in a circle, the typical pheno marker, F1 to F3. So there's 3 locations that the applicant is proposing for the pheno marker. One is right there, that F1 on the property line. And then as you come down back towards the house, There is where the green line is, that's the filter strip for the rain garden. And then on the opposite side of the driveway, there's an F2 for a pheno marker there near the pond, and there's an F3 to the, below the green in the rain garden where the hay bale line is there. So there'll be 3 markers that will help delineate where the protected areas are, that the applicant is suggesting. There's 3 markers for that. And then we could add the detail that we saw in a different plan for that. The other aspect is to include stockpile locations. And the other aspect is an erosion control around the roof drain that's off the property. This driveway is a common driveway. We just have the area in front of the building between the swing set and the front door where they basically excavate for the foundation footings. And once that's backfilled, they remove the material from it. And then after that, as far as framing construction, they're just going to be having different pallets of wood to the left and right of the driveway. So as far as stockpile areas, it's going to be within the front yard in the lawn areas and whether they can utilize some of the driveway. So having additional label there, we can add something, but it's a very small area. They'll be working in that area at different stages.
So you can't, as far as the stockpiling, you can't use any area outside the driveway, as I'm looking at the plan to the right,
Yeah, over here.
where the.
So there's a septic tanks where the market with the hand is right now. So there's a small area, but then you have the neighbor's driveway too. So it's right where you are right there. There's an area for like typical pile for backfill or staging for lumber.
Yeah.
So it's
There are a couple large stones there, and there's a fairly steep slope going from the driveway up to the backyard. So we might be able to have some stockpiling there, but it is, the slope might cause problems.
Well, I think, I think our concern is just having any stockpiling within the 50, right? So I think if you think site constraints are of that nature, I think you'd have to specifically show us where you want to stockpile, anywhere within the 50 and on the plan, and then we can have that discussion.
well, it'll be between the swing set and between the siltation controls and the front door to the, on that side of the driveway. Because that's the technical work area where we're putting the additions. And on the other side, it's higher in elevation and it's steeper. There's septic tanks there, so we don't want to jeopardize damaging those with any stockpiling. It's more
Yeah,
like a windrow of excavation along the foundation.
Yeah, I guess a concern, I don't know, just looking at it really quickly, is that when you say between the addition and the swing set, you're in the 25,
Right,
right? And that would be a very
Yes,
real
yeah,
concern.
and you probably, as you're saying that erosion control should probably be brought out.
I was going to say,
25.
it should be right at the 25, right?
Yeah.
It's just,
I don't know,
well, we have the retaining wall right there that we're, we need some area to work around the foundation to put the footing in about 4 feet or so, and then you have a pile around it. So there will be some temporary stockpiling in that within the 15 to 25 on that side yard.
I don't see that as a necessity necessarily. If you say you need 4 feet, if you put the erosion control to 25 by just scale, you've got 5 or 6, 7 feet there.
Right.
So,
And then you also have to set up the machine to reach back and excavate for the foundation where the sunroom's going at the back right corner. So you do need the access for the machine to drive around the side edge to reach up with the bucket to dig out the hole.
so are you talking about coming around the house on the front end?
Yes,
Where the addition is, versus why not on the back side?
2 items, elevation wise, it's higher, the grades are higher in the back. There's a low profile septic area.
But it's hard for us, Rich, to read that on
Yeah.
a plan with no topography.
Well, this is a second sheet with the topography taken off for the mitigation talk.
Okay,
So the other sheet is, you could switch over to that one, it's still active also.
Again, Rich, I think it's a very high bar to ask to work within the 25 foot. I just don't see us allowing that, period. So it might be means and methods by the contractor, which may be a little bit more challenging if they're not going to come around the other side of the house, but I just don't see I don't see approving any work within the 25.
So elevation wise, it's elevation 132 and at the front steps.
Yeah.
And then it's 142 in the back. It's 10 feet higher.
Yeah.
And then we have if you were to drive around the other side of the existing house, you have a side entry walkway into the garage with a railroad ties, and there's 2 septic tanks with a force main coming up the side. So we can't drive up around there and then come around the backyard and then reach down. It would actually probably cause more damage.
Well, except what kind of machinery are you talking about? I would think if it's a fairly small excavation back there for that particular room, wouldn't you could limit it to a bobcat with a little backhoe attached?
We would use more of a rubber tire, small excavator, probably a rubber track, which when they reach out, it being set up within the side yard there to the, between the side property line and how about we put the hay bale line at 20 feet off the wetlands and compromise?
It's actually 25. I don't think there's any compromise to the no disturb zone.
It's already, in fairness, we've presented a waiver request and.
But you
No,
didn't
it's-
actually mention that you were doing construction access in the 25.
Or
Wasn't-
storing material, yeah.
Wasn't part
I
of
mean,
the waiver.
I just never seen it done
Right.
in my,
I mean,
Rich, why don't you talk to maybe you have, to the construction people about sequencing?
Yeah.
It seems to me you can get things through there if you worked on that back area first.
or it still seems plausible with the size of machinery you can get around the back of the house.
Yes.
I just don't, it's a 10-foot grade, but it's not a hugely significant steep grade.
Right.
You see it climbing, but it's climbing,
Pretty gradual.
6 feet over 30 feet or something. It's not doable.
so you want to see a hay bale line right at the 25-foot line and that's it? And we'll call it a day?
Yeah,
And
I
then-
think I think that would be very typical to all projects that have come before the commission before.
Well, okay. And
After
then the other,
stockpiling, Rich, we could put the stockpile on the other side of the driveway.
yeah, well, there will be no stockpile on the 25-foot. I agree with that. Having been to many sites and seeing when they dig out the foundation to backfill it, they leave it right on the edge, so you just have to push it back in. And it's efficient construction, it keeps the cost down, and it's already an existing lawn. That's why I was talking that way, to keep costs down also.
Yeah, and I think, Rich, I think the response is that that's okay, but we'd like to see it on a plan in regard to what you propose so that, your expectation, our expectation, the contractor's expectation are set so that, there's no issues going forward.
So we're gonna revise the hay bale line to be 20 on the 25-foot no disturb zone line from the swing set up to the right side. And the other aspect was there's a 4-inch roof drain leader that goes from the back corner onto the town land to the right. I do not want to put a hay bale line along that. What we can do is when we dig out the foundation, that line can be just pulled out of the ground and just tamp down the disturbance of the topsoil so that it just be removed by hand. And I'll personally do that so that it's nobody else does it. It'd be to put hay bales 20 feet down and back up again. It's just going to invite something that we don't want to do. So
Sure, if you
That
want to
can
just
just be
propose
removed
it,
by
that's
hand.
fine. Yeah, just tell us what you're going to do with it, that's all.
and we're going to redirect that to the front rain garden in the front yard. So that's so we'll add the note. We're going to remove that portion by hand that's off the property, and we're going to move that siltation line up to the 20 from the swing set in the front up to the 25-foot line. And we'll add the Fenco the detail for the pheno marker. And we have the 3 locations shown for the pheno marker. And there'll be no stockpile within the 25-foot buffer zone line. And if they do have a bobcat up around the back, that can provide some assistance with maybe put in the footings for the deck connection. But we'll make it work.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. I'm just trying to, question on the duck coop. Was that settled being outside the 50?
Yeah, we're moving it to the backyard.
Okay. All right. And
Give the ducks some exercise.
okay, fair enough. So I think I don't see it noted on the plan. So
It's not, but we can special condition.
okay, so we'll just condition that. Okay. Well, of course, you got to look at the mitigation and the square footage and
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
All right. And I guess there was one final question here, the reconciliation of the rain garden location. Are you all set with
That's
that?
revised, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
that's good,
Okay.
yeah.
Any other thoughts, comments from the commission?
No?
No, if all those other things are addressed, then I think we're good.
Okay. Any comment from the public regarding this application? Don't see any? Okay. So Rich, we've got our next meeting is on July 6th. You probably heard previously that
Yes.
if you can attend to these things by a week from Friday, the 24th, then if we can hopefully wrap it up on the 6th.
Terrific. We'll take care of that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, look forward to seeing you on the 6th. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so. And I think that's it, right?
COCs.
Yep, COCs, thank you.
Okay, yes, Anderson 709 Old Bedford Road. This is an old outstanding order of conditions. That property owner is now selling and has realized there's a lien on the title. Recommend issuance of that as a full certificate. Spec is 315 Muscataqua Road, was a demo and rebuilds. This property owner is also selling. There was a bit of a mitigation that was done for that. Reconstruction was not there when we did the certificate of compliance inspection. So they have since replanted and the plantings are in. The plantings look good, but this is a partial as a recommendation to include a special condition for monitoring for 2 years.
Yeah,
to Make sure
yeah.
that they stay. Yeah.
Second time's a charm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Someone handle that as a twofer on a motion?
So is it just issuing the COC?
One is a
One's
full
COC and
SC,
one's a partial.
yeah,
And one's a partial.
partial, yeah.
Okay, so I move that we issue a certificate of compliance for 709 Old Bedford Road, DEP file 137715, and a partial COC for 315 Muscataqua Road, DEP file 1371083.
Thank you, Sarah. And the vote, Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Nick,
I,
and I am an I as well. All right, other business.
So the first is administrative approval for the land trust to install some fog bridging at the Hallenbach land at 88A Lowell Road. You can see from the photos in the thumbnail that it's muddy, it's squashy, bikes are using it. trailers use it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Proposing a double plank walk of 14 8-foot boards. And they would do, as we do, we put them on half rounds. Or 6x6 PT lumber and then stringers spiked into the supports. So this is what we do. And I just would recommend that
Yep.
they do that to stop the muckiness from.
Well, if bikes are using it, bikes kind of
Go.
continue to go around, right?
Yeah, we will.
Yes. The next one is, I believe it's a little complicated, the next one is photos. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extra land.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Photos. All right, so this is the conservation land is shown in green, which I didn't provide you with on the thumbnail. I apologize. The homeowner here has raised a concern about a tree that's leaning over from the conservation land into the backyard. And Will went out. He did confirm that it's it's clearly leaning over her property. I have another photograph of that. Here, this is the tree
Oh, yeah.
to the backyard. However, and there's the fence. You saw
Yep.
the last photo. So this
Yeah.
fence goes like this
Huh.
and up to about here. And they moved in maybe 5 years ago, and they installed that fence. They replaced the fence in an existing fence location. So that fence was already there. It is wet back there. I would say that because that fence has been in place for such a long time, that it would be considered a grandfathered fence location. But I do think that the fence should be relocated onto the property.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would think it's
Yeah, it
inappropriate.
just sets a bad precedent.
Oh.
Where-
How long is the fence? How long has the fence been there?
Well, so we have near maps now, but that only goes back to 2014, and I think they purchased in 2016, 17. So it's been there at least since 2014.
What kind of fence is it, David?
This right now is it's like a picket.
Oh, I
fence.
see. I
Yeah,
see.
Yeah.
yeah.
Kind of larger.
You know that after 20 years, adverse possession applies.
Not on town land, not on conservation land.
I would
Other,
think, I don't think municipalities are subject, are they?
it does not apply to conservation land.
Okay.
It can apply to other municipal lands.
Oh,
Really?
Yes.
Huh, that's
There's a
interesting.
little interesting case in downtown.
Okay.
about that.
Okay.
But no, that will yes, it doesn't apply to conservation land. But I do think that the precedent is a problem.
Oh, sure,
Yeah, sure.
sure.
So I
The
think,
land grab out there.
yeah.
Do
There's, it's
It's
just,
weird
it
looking
is-
stuff.
what kind of fence? What kind of fencing is it, Julia?
It's
Is
like
it plastic?
It's a plastic picket fence. Yeah. And then you can't really see it from this, but all of this land in here is kind of, it's being maintained. So,
Right.
so I think it is important to just sort of make sure that this comes out and re-established along the
Yeah.
property boundary.
At least as plastic fencing, the components are there and
Right.
it's still a burden, but
And Will and I were talking about this, and he thought that it would make a lot of sense from his standpoint to remove this tree. Like if he's gonna fell this tree, it's gonna fall on the fence.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna talk to the homeowner and just have her remove this section of fence, have Will remove the tree, and then she can replace the fence and do it on her property. And you were saying that sometimes fence contractors, like they won't install without a survey.
some do and some don't, right?
Yeah.
Because of this very issue, they don't want to be tagged
Exactly.
with.
What about so the land that's being maintained, that's
Mhm.
going back, it really belongs to
The town.
the
Mhm.
town?
Mhm.
Is there any mitigation that needs to be done there? Is there any damage?
Just have her stop maintaining it.
And
Let
let
it-
it grow back to what it was once.
So Dave, that fence, I'm looking at it again.
Yes.
It's infringing upon, it's on the upper right-hand side too,
Yes.
right? The
Yeah.
upper
Yeah.
section.
Yes.
So that has to be removed. And then it makes a left-hand turn at the very top towards the road. Is that what
It
happens?
looks like it closes off, Bill. There's like a fence shy of the property line.
Right there, that would
Yeah.
make sense because
Yeah.
you wouldn't want to be too close to your neighbor's property line with the
Yeah.
fence.
Right.
Go back a little bit. So there's a lot of fences. And that spot right there, where's the property line? Right there. And
So
that-
this red
Yeah,
is the property line.
so that's weird.
So 75% of that fence is not on the property.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's a,
So it's, but
That's
she,
gonna make a
I
big
think it was an
difference.
innocent.
Oh, yeah.
mistake. They replaced it
Sure.
in kind. and-
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
I mean,
But
that
it
would
was
be-
just a weird layout, even just from it's not a squared off fence at
No,
all. What
no.
you might expect somebody to put in their backyard,
Right.
you know.
it's Somebody came up with the design and just
Is
Just
it
went
had
gonna,
at it.
is it gonna really mess up the design of the garden or anything? Or not?
Doesn't look like there's a lot of garden there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We have a neighbor who moved an existing old stone wall onto our property, about 15, 18.
That's a different animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot more work.
Yeah. Say that again.
I mean,
Okay,
maybe she just wants to take it down entirely.
okay.
I don't
She
know.
might,
All
yeah.
right, so you and Will
Yes.
have that well in hand.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, let's see.
A couple last issues here.
Yeah, appointment.
Nancy Frizella Lee is, yes, 140 Walden Street. She's interested in joining the Haywood Meadow Stewardship Committee. They have a vacancy and she has attended a meeting and seems interested and
Great.
engaged. Yes,
Okay,
Good.
very good. A vote to appoint her.
yep. And we want to make a simple motion on that?
I make a motion to appoint Nancy Priscilla Lee from 140 Walden Street to the Haywood Meadow Stewardship Committee.
Second.
All right, and the vote, Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
and I am an I as well. And we got one last one.
Oh, you already did
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Yes, that
Oh,
was
we
the
did.
amended order of
Thank you.
conditions for
Alpha.
Mr. Gillis
Yep.
at 80 Alfred Circle.
Okay.
Yes, that was at the very beginning.
No, we
I
didn't
don't,
do that.
I don't think we got there though.
We haven't-
Oh,
we
I'm
haven't
sorry.
done
Remember you
We're
pulled
not-
it out and we said, Mark said I'm on 45.
Okay. I
That's right.
apologize.
He's motoring.
Okay.
I thought
You know, I
that-
was going with it because I'm like, geez, I already forgot.
Yeah.
Holy,
That's me.
no, it's,
Okay.
So,
all right, here we go.
so you say anything about it, or is this just, you're just?
You want to just point out a couple things? Taylor?
Yes, so Mr. Gillis just he had, remember his plans had that big pathway. and
Yes, yes,
It was
he-
a 1,200 square foot area.
Oh,
but
yes.
Yeah,
He
I
was
think,
only
yeah,
required to do 600
Yes.
feet.
he
so
had,
he
he
wants-
had a deer patch road.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
did
A deer
that. Yeah,
road.
yeah.
Deer road, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So he just wants to have it be, he only wants to be responsible for 600 square
Sure.
feet, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll do more, but
Yes, he seems like very well intentioned.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Absolutely.
But that seemed reasonable. And then we got the date wrong.
Oh,
in the-
okay.
In the order too, so that was a boo-boo.
Okay.
Okay.
So I shall you just move that we amend the order of
Yes,
conditions?
yeah, right.
All right, on, for 80 Alfred Circle, for file number 1371593, as you have written. Good.
Perfect.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. And the vote, Bill,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
I am an I as well. I think that brings us to our adjourning for the evening.
Nice.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Well done.